Merry Christmas Eve, everyone. If you're given to celebrate the holidays, I'm going to try to make this ironically short. And I say ironically because it's a 5,593 page omnibus spending bill, and I seriously just perused it. I just flipped through and stopped at points that I thought looked interesting. I didn't read the whole thing. I'm getting really good at not reading the whole thing and just picking up the points that I need to from things. It's a grad school skill. Um, but yeah, I got here by way of seeing meme posts, and they were all about, well, how many times does the coronavirus relief bill have the word missile or aircraft in it? And giving like, hundreds of times that those words show up, and then how many times does it say the word doctor? Like five. How many times does it say the word masks? Zero, right? Okay. The thing is, though, it's not really just like the coronavirus relief bill. This is the omnibus spending bill. This is like all the different spending things all in one thing. So it's a bit of a misleading meme that led me to actually looking at the omnibus spending bill. I think I'm going to link it in the description box so that you can look at it yourself and follow along with what I'm saying about it. The biggest thing that stopped me while I was reading this, stopped my perusing, and made me really focus was on page 2623. The Tibetan Policy and Support Act of 2020. So basically, here's what we got. In our Constitution, as Americans, we're not supposed to have the government interfering in religion, right? We have a separation of church and state. And by my reading of this Tibetan Policy and Support Act, what they're trying to do is citing international precedents and laws, extend our own veneration of the separation of church and state to China, who are very much not following that same sort of policy, because what they've tried to do, the reason why the Dalai Lama is basically in exile from China and traveling all over the world and visiting people like a celebrity, instead of living in Tibet, is because they want to basically depose, for lack of a more, I guess, kinder euphemism. They want to depose the Dalai Lama and the Panchen Lama. And by my understanding of it, the reason why they want the Panchen Lama swapped out with their own candidate for Panchen Lama is because the Panchen Lama recognizes the next Dalai Lama. Right? So if the Dalai Lama dies to get reincarnated, how do we know who is the real next Dalai Lama? Because if we're going to draw a parallel to Christian theology, there's a lot of people in this world who think that they are Jesus. They are all crazy, and you can even put a few of them in a room and have them talk to each other, and they're all going to think each other are crazy, and that they are the actual real Jesus. So, this has been done. It's one of those weird scientific experiments that I love hearing about. Anyways, in the Tibetan Buddhism, you have this belief in reincarnation, wherein the Dalai Lama is allowed to reincarnate wherever, whenever he wants, right? So he dies, and then some other baby that gets born gets declared to be the Dalai Lama after a while, and nobody knows where he's going to pop up, right? But usually he's Tibetan. Because, like most religions, whichever continent and country you're born into is very determinant of which religion you're going to be. Even though there are now Buddhists all over the world, some of them fleeing the religious persecution of China. So, as per the Dalai Lama's own spiritual beliefs, he believes that the Chinese cannot regulate when he is going to reappear and reincarnate, right? That would be against his own spiritual wishes for them to declare that another life form, another baby after he's dead, is him. So they're very much trying to get involved with religion. And so now our country is trying to get them to stop getting involved with that religion like we would stop. Because, it's written into our Constitution that government doesn't involve itself in religious affairs. If I were to draw a parallel to Catholicism, it would be like if Italy had taken Vatican City as their own, because the Vatican actually is its own like little nation state, right? It's a little city-sized thing. It's completely landlocked by Italy, and if Italy had occupied the Vatican City and then said, we're going to install our own pope, and the pope that the cardinals chose, we're going to say that he doesn't count, it's our pope that counts. This is the same as China occupying Tibet and then telling them, you don't get to have your own Dalai Lama and Panchen Lama. We're going to give you our own that we've trained to be your religious leader. And it sounds pretty crappy, But it's one of those circular logic things where you can ask questions like, is it okay to hate people who hate? If you're of the mindset that it's never okay to hate people, is it at least okay to hate people who hate people? And this is one of those ways that certain people try to get their foot in the door with the rest of their hateful ideology. Is they say, freedom of speech. I'm just expressing my viewpoints. You shouldn't be so discriminatory towards other people. If you're going to say that you're not going to discriminate against people with other beliefs, why are you discriminating against my belief? Well, because your belief is discriminatory against other beliefs. So is it okay to be a bigot about bigotry? You know? And if we're going to take this on a larger scale, the international scale, is it okay for the U.S. to tell other countries, hey, we have this principle of the separation of church and state, and now you are wrong because you're not having that separation of church and state. But in effect, by intervening, we then become involved in a religious dispute because we have a very secular atheist government who is trying to regulate a Buddhist religious practice, pretty much to quell rebellions within their own society. And where you draw the line between what is a religion and what is a nation state, it can get blurry. Okay? There are certain types of Islam that are completely contained within their nation states. You won't find them in other parts of the world. Generally, religions come from certain parts of the world and tend to dominate just that part, and they'll spread a little bit, but, to say that the religion of the atheist secularist style Chinese that still has traditions from religion in it, their arts and whatnot. They'll have the paper dragons jumping around and all that. They still have some tradition to it. To say that they themselves don't have religious beliefs that are conflicting with the other people's religious beliefs, and then that's at the core of this is, I think, not doing it enough justice, because this is basically one religious belief trying to regulate another religious belief because they don't want uprisings. They don't want rebellions. And in our country, we can try to point to a finer line of like what is the government and what is religion, even though we give, by this omnibus spending bill, like $500 million to Israel, whereas each of us is only going to get like a $600 check. $500 million goes straight to Israel. I'm like, well, why are we there? It's because our religious leaders believe it's the Holy Land, and they then lobby our congressmen, who then look at this voting block that those religious leaders can command, and they're like, you know what, we're going to keep supporting Israel, even though it's really dicey with basically if you didn't like apartheid in South Africa. Wait till you hear about what they're doing in Israel. So a lot of our allies in the world, I wonder why we are their allies. And I honestly do believe that the only reason why we're allies with Israel is because of the religious convictions of a lot of our politicians. So there's really, when we're talking about like the separation of church and state, it's not a perfect one. It's far from it. We've got our religious senators trying to, legislate wombs based on religious beliefs, and, trying to legislate who can love who based on religious beliefs. It's not perfect. People's entire context comes to the table when you vote people into office, and then you expect them to represent you in this republic. It's like everything about them is part of their decision making process. So, and you're never going to have a perfect separation of church and state, but I wonder how much teeth we're going to have when we're asking very nicely to China to back off your attempted religious coup, because we believe that the Dalai Lama and Panchen Lama should be chosen by the people. Which, by the way, if my analogy of, Italy choosing their own pope after occupying Vatican City were to actually happen, would Catholics around the world just start worshiping and respecting this new pope installed by Italy? I'd say that the will of the people is more powerful. So then it becomes a question, how much of the government of China is like that oppressive and scary, that they could just install a religious leader and then have that religion's adherents like accept it and go like, okay, I guess, usually it's very hard to depose leaders. I don't even think that when Donald Trump leaves office that he's going to lose his cult. he's still going to have them following him around. His Twitter will be with us until he dies. But, yeah. I mean, I think we're probably only defending the right of the Dalai Lama to reincarnate as he wishes, because we like that the Dalai Lama and the Panchen Lama represent something that is a rebellion against Chinese authority to expand into Tibet, into Taiwan, into Hong Kong, basically anything that is supporting rebellion and uprisings in China, we're going to do. And so that's why we're doing it. And so we align ourselves with a religious leader to support. It's it's rather muddy in my mind. And then, if you were to go back before that in the omnibus spending bill, page 1499. 1498 and 1499. 33 million to support democracy in Venezuela. Venezuela, by the way, also communist. So, how are we supporting democracy in Venezuela? I guess probably by supporting Catholicism. It's a thing where the outside groups that are in the country surrounding Venezuela, the encampments around that are taking all of the refugees. Who do you think's caring for all those people? Religious groups. It's not like a direct funding of the religious groups, but who's going to take over Venezuela if it gets overthrown? Nature abhors a vacuum, and people are going to believe what they're going to believe. If we wanted any better out of people, we'd have to educate them. And that doesn't seem to be part of the omnibus spending bill. Things like, say, critical thinking skills for high school students. That would be something that I could get behind. And I told you guys I was going to make this short, and I didn't. Sorry about that. Sometimes I get on a roll. King of the Rambles. World's Worst SJW, White Knight, signing off. And have a Merry Christmas. Tell everybody that you love them. Because, you don't want to be the person who wishes they did.